Hey, what's up, Dice Tower? Thought we could all use a different change of scenery based on everything that's going on right now. So just taking a little time outside to enjoy what's beautiful around us, right? That being said, we're looking at a game today that is a legacy game. Now, I want you to list in the comments below, what is your favorite legacy game and what's your favorite aspect of a legacy game? So even if you don't like the legacy system, what is the thing you do like the most about the legacy system? For instance, maybe you like WrestleMania being live and stage, but you had to watch it in a performance center, but that Boneyard match, wow. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think about the legacy system, what your favorite legacy aspects are, because today we're taking a look at Aeon's End Legacy. It's a deck building legacy game. I'm going to go through the review right now of kind of the components that I can show you. Obviously, there's boxes and things you have to open, so you know that there are certain things I can't show you if you want to enjoy the story of the Aeon's End Legacy, but we're going to take a look at some things that I can show you right now, show you how to play the basic game, and then we'll go from there. So obviously this is a legacy game, which means that it is a one and done for the most part. I mean, Charterstone and others have things that you can do afterwards, but this is a legacy game, so I'm not going to just open the box and dive right in because there are certain people who would be upset with me for spoiling it. However, I am going to talk pretty openly as much as I can without spoiling anything about the mechanics of the game, because there are things I can show you that you would be ready to do with base game one that are pretty much your same things you're going to use the entire game. So let's take a look at what I can show you right now, which is actually a pretty good amount. So to start with, I can actually show you the 1,000-foot view, but I'm also going to be able to zoom in because here's the good news. With the characters that you choose, I'm not going to show you the backs of these cards because the backs, what's neat is the front back is male and female. So you have the female side and the male side, but the characters that Carl and I have played as, I'm not going to show you that, so there won't be any spoilers, but it just shows you what a basic character looks like. So everybody will choose one of these characters, and here's your starting hand: 4 crystals and 1 spark, and I'll show you those over there in just a minute. Your starting deck would be 4 more crystals and 1 more spark. Pretty terrible, basic deck builder starting hand. Now, obviously, you notice there are a lot of things that will unlock as you play through the game. You get to name your characters, where you store your life points. You have these breaches up here. Now I'm going to talk to you as if you've never played Aeon's End either. So you have these breaches up here. Start with number 1 open, number 2 is closed, number 3 is closed. It shows you a certain amount of points. So it starts like this, face down. If you want to spin focus to turn it, you will turn it this way and then turn it this way. Ideally, when you want to spend more ether to open it, you'll flip it, and now it's an open breach. See, Brian, that's a lot of talking about breaches and open breaches. It sounds like we're talking about pants in the past, but no, my point is this. When a breach is opened, you put your spells there. The order of which you do your phases in the game would be specific pertaining to that. You will do your casting phase first. That means any spells put up here ready to cast will go. If they're in a closed breach, they have to fire. If they're in an open breach, you can stage them and maybe you wait until fire them to maybe get some better combos. That's why that's important, the whole opening and closing breaches and all that sort of stuff. Also, if you do the focus action, which means to rotate that breach, you can then ready a spell on a closed breach. That's how you get closed breaches to have spells on them anyway. But anyway, this is your characters. You're then going to have cards, and again, I'm not going to show you the supply cards, but you're going to have 9 set supply cards out there. These are better gems, which will give you more money. These are better spells, which are going to give you better attack values against your enemies. And these are relics. These are things that are just going to boost your team. There's really no reason I show you any of this. But what if you want to critique the art? Well, the good news is the game is played in these chapters, and each one of them is a mission. You can feel them. They all have different things in them. There are cards inside of here and different things. And I'll tell you, in the ordeal, you're going to actually open it up. You're going to get a villain in here who is really hard to beat, but also everything you need to open the game, with the exception of these stop cards, which just kind of tells you what to do each mission, are inside of here. So if a mission has some special rules or special cards, they might be inside of here. You also have these, they're all different types. None of these are hidden information. You don't open any of this stuff. You get to look at this as soon as you open the box. So just look at the art style. This is kind of the art style we're dealing with. It reminds me of, with the exception of this face. This face looks to me a little bit more newish, but this reminds me of early mid-80s fantasy art, you know, those paperback novels, and I actually really like that. That's a plus to me. Some of you may see that and think, oh, that doesn't look good. I like this kind of almost cheap paperback feel to it. And that's not a knock. That's an intentional style, clearly done. But I like that. I think that looks really good. I like the fact that these are separated. They're nice little envelopes full of everything you need to do. Don't open until instructed. There are also some boxes over here that you'll open. Ours are already opened. The two that I've taken out are already over there. But these have been opened as well. There's just some stuff inside of them. You have your different decks over here. Don't read the titles of those decks if you don't want to know what they do. Nothing really special. Again, this isn't a spoiler heavy sort of legacy game. There are a couple of life counters and things like that, which are very nice. You find out these in the rule book as soon as you open the box. So again, the good thing about this is the spoilers aren't so much what you see. They're kind of the story, and as you progress, and certain mechanics will unlock that I'm not going to show you. You have sticker pages that are inside of these insights. I mean, some of them are gigantic, some of them are pretty small. But the main crux of the game is you're playing a deck builder. And as far as the deck builder itself goes, you're going to have currency in the sense of, actually, I'll show you the starter deck right now. So the starter cards are these crystals and these sparks. I mean, this is literally all you start with. Sparks deal 1 damage, but here's the deal. The point of the story is you're a beginner mage. You're just coming out of the academy, essentially, and learning how to be a mage, and then all heck breaks loose, and you have to fight pretty much immediately. But deal a damage, and these give you 1 Aether, 1 Ether. These are your currency in the game. You're going to use those to buy the cards out of the middle supply right there, and you'll see what those are when you open up the deck. But they're just better spells, better gems that will get you more stuff. If you're playing DC Deck Builder, think like kicks, as opposed to just all sorts of crazy cards, because you have 9 cards in the center. Those are the 9 cards you can buy to beef up your hand each game. Those will change as you go along, because after you beat each mission, you'll unlock more cards to put in the center. What that means is you're not necessarily permanently increasing your hand or permanently increasing your deck from the start. You're increasing the opportunity to buy better cards and better cards during the game. So it keeps the deck builder feel, but you also get that really nice idea that you are progressing and making your game unique versus someone else's. One other thing I really like is the turn order. So you'll shuffle up turn orders, which would be it's set based on player count, but in a 2-player game, it's 2 of yours, 2 of your partners, and then 2 nemesis cards. And when you shuffle that up and deal it up, and it'll say nemesis. That means the enemy takes a turn, and the card will say something. Now, what I like about this is the deck for the nemesis is set. It's a permanent deck, and it's top to bottom designed by the designer, which means that you're going to get story things to progress. So if it says, you know, this is going to happen later, it'll be some flavor text like blah, 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 this is happening. Well, you know that in a couple turns, something is about to happen in that deck. It's not random. It's not like, well, hopefully that card doesn't show up. No, it's coming. You just don't know how long. And that, to me, is really the strength of this game, is the fact that the game is not shuffled. You never shuffle your cards. You always, when you're done with your hand, you'll place it in the discard pile, and you draw back up to 5 if you don't use them all. But then when you're done, unlike a normal deck builder, we take this and shuffle them all up, you take your discard pile and turn it over. So you never shuffle in this game, which to me is a real strength, right? The 2 ways to lose for you would be if Gravehold, the city you're defending, if it dies, or if you're both exhausted, that's how you lose. The winning conditions change based on the actual mission. So that is essentially how you play Aeon's End Legacy. It's a deck builder with really, really good legacy elements. So let's come back up, talk final thoughts as much as we can. I'm not going to spoil anything, but again, you see that there isn't really a lot you can spoil other than the specific things you unlock, because it is a deck builder, and deck builders are familiar, and that's where that actually excels for Aeon's End Legacy. So that's it. That's how you play Aeon's End Legacy for the most part. Now, obviously, you're going to be opening up some stuff. You're going to be opening up boxes and envelopes and stickers and all sorts of things that are going to add to your characters and add to your cards, etc. So let's talk about what we can talk about in an open forum without having to worry about any kind of spoilers. And that includes Mission 1. I'm just going to tell you things about Mission 1 as well, but the other ones, I wish I could tell you a little bit more about them, but I don't want to spoil what happens because there's some neat aspects. But as far as Mission 1 goes, here's what I really enjoy about Aeon's End in general, and this is just the mechanics of an actual game versus the legacy system of it. As far as deck builders go, I get bored with them really easy because it's just the luck of, well, do I shuffle it now and hopefully this comes up. My favorite aspect of Aeon's End, and it's probably not alone in this, is the you never shuffle aspect. You never shuffle your cards. So when you're playing cards out of your hand,
you're timing it out to think, wait a minute, if I discard this one first, this one will be top. Because when you flip your cards back over, you don't shuffle them up, you just turn them over. Your cards in your hand never get shuffled, you just turn them over. I love that aspect, that everything is just stacked top to bottom, and it just flips back over, and you're getting those cards in a certain order unless you start buying more cards, and then when you buy this card before that card, that may come out before this hand, etc. And you're trying to just kind of, it's more of a puzzle at that point than it is just pure blind luck. And strategy comes from the puzzle as opposed to, well, I hope I get the cards that I've shuffled and bought, right? So I enjoy the aspect a whole lot, that the randomness is really taken away in this sort of game that can be killed sometimes by randomness. That also applies to the Nemesis deck. What's really, really cool about the fact that the game never shuffles like this is the Nemesis deck can be built by the designers for each mission, and this is what happens, obviously. Top to bottom stacked down, and it scales it based on your player count. So it'll say, if you have 2 players, get rid of this. If you have 3 players, get rid of these cards. But those Nemesis cards, you think, oh man, it's a Nemesis turn, and then all of a sudden something happens in the deck that's story driven, that you just go, really cool things can happen. Or you get this other, and I won't tell you specifically, but you get this other type of deck of cards that does these things, and you go, oh wow, permanent changes from a deck of cards from a story mission that I never saw coming. To me, that's what makes Aeons and Legacy really unique. Now, let's talk about a couple detractors, because the one thing that I don't like about Aeons and Legacy is just, to me, it's a bland theme. I get that it's a different sort of fantasy. You've been under the ground your whole life, and then all of a sudden you're coming up to the upper world. I get it. I'm not into just kind of a fantasy world unless I really take the time to invest in it. I've grown to love the Gloomhaven world, if that makes any sense. But at first I had the same aspect. I had the same feeling about it. It's just a fantasy world, and that's just not for me. Now, that might be for you. There are a ton of people who just enjoy fantasy in general. It doesn't matter if it's this universe or that universe. They just love the whole aspects of it. That's not so much me. This universe just feels a little bit dry to me. Now, I do like the art on these cards, how they look more like the monsters and things, the sci-fi monsters, or sorry, the fantasy monsters. They look more like something you would see in like a 90s Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon there. They're like, well, I guess 2000s Pokemon. They're more metallic and kind of rock built as opposed to just typical generic fantasy and things like that. So I do like that there is a unique aspect to it, but at the end of the day, it's still a fantasy deck builder that I have no attachment to the IP at all, period. So that may or may not hurt you, but here's what's good. The mechanics of the game are so solid that you forget that if you don't care about the theme. You actually enjoy the mechanics so much because of how they do, how they work and how they play together with the no shuffling and things like that. So, obviously, the things I can't talk about by name, I'll mention kind of generically here. I like how you get to change your character. I like how you get to do additional things to your decks and your characters and things like that. I also like how the legacy system works, and I'll tell you this because you can read about this in the intro. I like that the aspects that change every round and the decisions that you make don't just go straight into your deck necessarily. They go into the pile of cards that you're buying from. And so it's nice having those cards in the middle of the game change, but they change based on what you choose to put there. So that's also really nice. Sure, you have your starting deck, sure you have your starting hand, but you have the middle cards in the market or the area to buy. They change based on what you choose to put there. So you're going to get 4 or 5 different ones after the round, but you can only put 2 or so of those out there. So I really enjoy seeing all that. There are a ton of things to unlock, really cool components, really cool things to just pull out of here. Does it work as a legacy game? It really does work as a legacy game, and I think this is one you're going to want to pick up if you enjoy deck builders, period. This is one of the best deck builders I've ever played because of the aspects I mentioned earlier. But it also does a really good job of staying in its lane as a legacy game, if that makes any sense. It doesn't try to bloat it with too much extra stuff. It stays in its lane, and it does some really, really good things. So if you enjoy deck builders, go pick up Aeons and Legacy games. If you enjoy legacy games, but you don't like deck builders, pick up Aeons and Legacy. It takes care of a lot of the issues with both of these two genres when it mashes them together really well. So that is Aeons and Legacy. I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram at Dice Tower Brian. And until next time, we'll see you.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.